The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, the 15-Point Plan podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Smith. I'm here with my co-host, Ryan Greigg. And as always, we are talking about all things energy management. That's what the 15-Point Plan is all about. And we are on this series about operating at peak. And we are currently going through some pillars of physical energy. And last time we talked through the importance of sleep. And this time we are going to dive right in to pillar number 2. So if you're just kind of jumping into this episode and you haven't been following along, I'd say go back and listen to the last 1, 2, 3 episodes, and you'll get all caught up on why we are here and why we are talking about exercise today, which exercise movement is one of the points on the 15-Point Plan. And Ryan, why is exercise so important?
Yeah, I love the fact, Jacqueline, that what we're looking at and studying is just a bit of a duplicate of our 15-Point Plan system with some additional studies and some additional research-backed information that we can share with our listeners for that reminder of why these things are so impactful. And this episode, again, this is about the most powerful cognitive performance drug known to science, Jacqueline. Let me say that again, because that's like pretty incredible. This is the most powerful cognitive performance drug known to science. It is exercising. It is something you can do for free. It is something that you can do in as little as 30 to 45 minutes a day. And it's this idea of exercising, or as we call in the 15-Point Plan, movement. And exercise, we know, Jacqueline, is just so impactful. Like, you feel it as soon as you're done. Nobody wants to go to the gym for the most part, or wants to go for a run for the most part, but then you just feel so good when you do it. And one of the reasons that we feel so good is Dr. John Rady from Harvard. He did this study on exercise and what it does. And what it does is it produces what's called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This is like Miracle-Gro for your brain, which I don't love, Jacqueline, because Miracle-Gro is a terrible, terrible fertilizer nobody should be using. But
it is? I didn't know that.
It is a very harsh chemical.
Okay.
So I digress. Let's just call it something that's very good for your brain and makes your brain grow, because it literally causes new neurons to grow, and it strengthens what are called synaptic connections, and it protects against cognitive decline, which we mentioned in the previous episode, like sleep does.
Yeah.
So the combination of getting more sleep and moving your body, it's actually not only helping your body and your muscles grow, it's helping your brain grow. And after just like 45 minutes of exercise, Jacqueline, it increases that by 200 to 300%, which is wild.
That is crazy. I think it's really good that they have these studies, because I know, like, for me, for years, I struggled with being consistent with my exercise and my health, my physical health, because I don't know. I'd get to a point where I'd be like, I'm in good enough shape, or I'm in, I look good enough. Like, I was more, I guess when I was younger, like, motivated by how I looked. And then at a certain point, like, you kind of get over that. Like, I'm 47 and I look how I look, like, and I know I can impact that to a degree, but I'm way more motivated by like my longevity and my brain health, because getting like dementia or having some sort of like Alzheimer's, that scares me,
Same. It scares me too. And I'm right there with you. It's like, we used to think working out or weightlifting or training was to impact our muscles and to grow our body, which it does. And that feels great.
Yeah.
And we perform at such a higher level, not just physically, but mentally, is what we're realizing because of how this impacts our brain and the connections within our brain. So if you don't want to work out and lift weights because you don't care how you look or you don't want bigger muscles, hey, no problem. I don't know anybody out there that doesn't want like a bigger brain, like to be a little bit smarter, to be a little bit sharper, especially if you're in sales or in your leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Our brain is our greatest tool and our muscle.
Yeah.
By strengthening that, we're going to perform better. We're going to speak more clear. We're just going to show up with more energy and show up better for our people, right?
Yep, absolutely. Well, tell us what happens after we go for a 20-minute run.
So a 20-minute run, anybody can do that. Anybody can go for a 20-minute run or just a quick walk, like a brisk walk. This
Yeah.
will increase your cognitive performance by a third, 34% increase in your cognitive performance. In other words, just how your brain is reacting, how your brain is functioning. It increases our hippocampus, which is the part of our brain, by 40%. This is where we remember things, Jacqueline. This is where our memory is. So almost half of an increase in your memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll take that all day of an increase in cognitive performance, an increase in my memory. But this one too, Jacqueline, is when we think long term. And when I think of memory and I think of what it would be like to not have a memory,
Mm-hmm.
that's freaking scary.
I know.
And that's called Alzheimer's disease. And there's a 48% reduction in Alzheimer's risk because of lifelong aerobic exercises. Let me repeat that. Like, your chances of getting Alzheimer's is half if you're just moving for 20 to 30 minutes regularly.
So this one stat, like literally blew my mind when I heard it, because I think a lot of people think that like we have zero control, like you either get Alzheimer's or you don't get Alzheimer's, but we actually have a lot of ways that we can impact our chances of getting it. And so if you are listening to this and you do not currently exercise regularly, I'm sorry, but like you're doubling your chances. You're giving up the opportunity to lower your chances. If you have a family member that doesn't exercise and you're listening to this, share this with them. Share this episode with them. It's so important. And the last one, because we talked a lot about the impacts of sleep on Alzheimer's as well. But this is so crazy. A 48% reduction, like that's not like a 3% reduction. That's a lot.
It's major. It's major. And recently, Jacqueline, I spent some time with a loved one of mine, and that person is going through this.
Really?
And they're just like, they're such a beautiful soul. They're such a beautiful person. And about every 15 minutes, maybe 30, they would ask me, so it's the girlfriend of my stepdad, and I know her son. We went to high school together. And like every 30 minutes, she'd be like, so how do you know my son?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know my son again? And she's so sweet, and she kind of knows it's happening, but she doesn't. And
Mm-hmm.
she just asks, she's the same. And she's not even 70.
Wow.
So this stuff is real and it's scary and it's actually preventable. I completely disagree with this whole idea that this is genetic. And if your genetics of
Mm-hmm.
people had it, then you're going to have it. Start moving your body a little bit more, start sleeping a little bit better. And you can really, really reduce the risks of these things, right?
Yeah. And so there's actually different types of exercise that we need, and they serve different purposes. So, do you want to talk through the different types of exercise, Ryan?
Yeah, let's do that, Jacqueline. I think that'll be a good place to end this, just so people have an idea of maybe what that looks like. And I'll bet most of our listeners have heard some of these things, but let's
Mm-hmm.
get a little more detailed on what that looks like. So, three types, right? Number one is like this zone two cardio. Again, you can wear a Garmin watch like I have, or a Whoop band. This will track and it'll tell you when you're in that zone two cardio. But this is like where you're moving. You can probably still have a conversation. You're not moving overly, exerting yourself. If you do this 3 to 4 times per week, 45 to 60 minutes, you're looking pretty good on that. And that could be just a walk, right, Jacqueline? Like, that's like a walk.
Yeah.
And it's not overexerting yourself. It's building your VO2 max.
Hmm.
You're going to have a more powerful predictor of longevity and your mitochondrial density. Like, whoa, big word, Ryan. That's like the cells, like the denseness of the cells, which are the powerhouse of your body, goes up by 28%. Goes up
Yeah,
by 28%.
that's crazy. It also um it's tied to like mortality reduction too. So zone 2 is like running, cycling, walking at a brisk pace, rowing. But like he said, where you can still speak, so you're not like doing sprints or anything. Okay, so that's zone 2. Then there's resistance training.
Yeah, resistance training. So that's something like throwing the weights around, something
Mhm.
like squats, deadlifts, push pull type exercises. Doesn't have to be super heavyweight, but there's
Mhm.
weight involved, there's resistance involved, just like it says. This is cool for all us guys out there. Men who lift just 2 times per week, Jacqueline, have
Mhm.
a 68% lower all cause of mortality because we know that muscle stores glucose. And
Mhm.
it's critical for our blood sugar stability and for sustaining energy. So just 2 days a week, dudes, we're going to increase that by 68%, or decrease, I should say, just by lifting twice a week.
Yeah, and it also it does impact your energy, your mood, and your cognitive performance. So this isn't just for the guys; this is for the gals too, for your hormone balance, right, and just your overall cognitive performance and mood.
Yeah.
Um, Sprints and hit.
Yeah. And now this is where we might lose some people, Jacqueline, like myself. Like, dude, I'm not
Like me
sprinting.
too. Same.
But but there are so many benefits to this. So this is where you're going to push a little bit higher. Your heart rate's going to go up, I don't know, 180, maybe in that zone 4, zone 5. But you only got to do it once or twice a week, and you only have to do it for 20 to 25 minutes. So it's not multiple
Yeah.
times per week or for a long time. It's a sprint or a hit, high intensity interval training.
So you could do
What
this
this
one time for 20 minutes, basically.
Yeah.
Like it says 1 to 2, but one time for 20 minutes is all it's saying.
There is so many benefits to doing this at least just once a week, Jacqueline, and anybody can do this once a week. We can all get out there and do these things once a week.
Mhm.
4 to 6 30-second all-out efforts. So let me say that again. 4 to 6 30-second all-out efforts with 3 minutes of rest. 30 seconds. Just go as hard as you can for 30 seconds and take a 3-minute rest. This produces this crazy spike in dopamine, in neuroepinephrine,
Mhm.
and in our growth hormones. In fact, it creates a 300% growth in hormone spikes. In other words, it's increasing the rate at all of our muscle growth, and it's decreasing the rate of our stress because when we exert ourselves like that, we've pushed ourselves so far, the rest of life just comes a little bit easier.
And then the other crazy thing is that um, just 4 minutes of hit improved aerobic capacity more than 45 minutes at a steady state. So this is where it's increasing your aerobic um, health. And then I don't know what this is, telomere, but it increases telomere, and I could be saying that wrong, length,
Yeah.
which is anti-aging at the cellular level.
Yeah, exactly. So your telomeres are just that, Jacqueline. They are what increase longevity. So
Okay.
the
We
longer
want
they are, yeah, the longer they are, the more anti-aging your cells are going to experience.
that. Okay. So as we wrap this up, um, why do people who exercise outperform those who don't? There's a few reasons.
There's a really cool quote again from Dr. John Rayleigh that talks about exercise and aerobic exercise specifically. We know that it causes a massive release of dopamine, serotonin, neuroepinephrine, and that BDNF that we talked about simultaneously, all at once. The equivalent of the most effective antidepressant cocktail with zero side effects and immediate availability. It's a powerful quote. and powerful something to leave our listeners with as we wrap this episode up on exercise and movement. And again, these things are doable. 3 to 4 days a week, a couple days a week, and 1 to 2 days a week of just really pushing ourselves. 15, 20 minutes. We can all do that. We can find the time to do that, right?
Absolutely. So if you were not motivated to exercise before this episode, I hope you are. I'm motivated. Like I might even do the HIIT one once a week. I think I can do that. I'm super motivated by having a better mood and by living longer and by keeping my memory. I want to be alive a long time, but I also want to be with it for as long as I'm alive. So we hope these are helpful episodes. Share them with someone that you love. And as always, check out all of our podcasts in our Win, Make, Give podcast network at winmakegive.com. You can get the trackers for the 15-point plan on there. And you can also find all of our past episodes. Follow Ryan and I on social media, Ryan Park Greigg, Jacqueline Ray Smith. We love using our middle names. We love all of you. And thank you again for listening. And we'll catch you on the next episodes. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.